share this document. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so I dropped that chapter 13, but on the review sheet, I just left the information, the question about the steep incline, because we covered that as well in chapter 14. So, and then there's just a little bit of info in chapter 13 on children who are unsighted. So they could be completely blind or only a little bit blind. So I thought that that would actually be quite useful for you to take a look at. It's not very much, so I think that would be okay. So, based on what we did in chapter 14 then, do you think that practice, so by practice they mean experience at locomotion, right? Does experience make children more or less wary of descending a steep incline? So we watched some video about this. Do you remember? So think about what we saw happen when they transitioned from being a non-locomotor to a creeper, and then what happened again when they went from a creeper to a walker. What do you think?
Is there a way to zoom in on the screen so we can see the question a little bit better?
Sure. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay.
How's that?
That's good.
Okay.
We're on the practice makes young children more or less wary of descending a steep incline.
Yes.
Okay. For that one, it would be this. Practice makes young children more weary of descending a steep incline.
Yes. Well done. Well
Okay.
done. Yeah. Remember that we saw when they were only had like a week or so's experience of creeping, they would just head on down that slope or head over the edge of the visual cliff, and then a couple of weeks into self-locomotion they get to the edge or they get to the slope and they turn around and go down backwards. Yeah?
Yes.
Very good, well done. Okay, and then have a look at that unsighted info. As I said, it's not very much. And chapter 14. Okay, here we go. All right, locomotor experience facilitates which of the following? So, manipulative skills, perception of surface texture and slope, and depth perception. And then you could have A and B or B and C.
I'll go with B.
Okay. Good. Kayla?
I'm gonna go with A and B myself.
Okay. All right, so my heart, right, I actually think it's A, B, and C. Because I think that the more they locomote, the more inquisitive they are, the more things they get to touch and play with. But technically, you wouldn't need to be able to move in order to practice manipulative skills, you know, with blocks or with a toy or even a book, right? So, not A, okay? Now, go back to our visual cliff information, right? When they first started to creep, did they care about going over the edge of the visual cliff?
No.
No. All right? So then with 4 or 5 weeks experience, what happens when they put them on the visual cliff?
They get scared.
They're possibly scared. Remember that the researcher we listened to the interview with said that in her opinion they weren't really scared. They just stopped because they realized that there was a drop-off there. Right? So with experience, they start to develop depth perception. So here we want answer E. Perception of surface texture and slope, yes, we watched a piece of film on that. And depth perception. And it's not completely finished within a couple of weeks of creeping experience. Obviously, that's something that keeps developing. Does that make sense?
What about the walk answer is E?
Say that again.
So the answer to E, the correct answer?
E, yes. Yes, because with creeping and walking experience, they develop that surface texture and slope, you were right about that, but also depth perception. That's what the visual cliff research shows us. All right? Okay, next one is blank. Are the actions or behaviors for or permitted to an individual by the places, objects, events, and environment.
I'll go affordances.
Well done. Yeah, good. Yeah, affordances. Right? The opportunity that the environment gives us to move based on my perception of the environment. Right? So actions or behaviors that are permitted to an individual by the places, objects, and environment. Good. Affordances, yes. Well done. All right. The nervous system may be one factor involved in the decline in balance with aging. True or false?
I would say true with this one.
Yeah, definitely. So we see some degradation in the myelination of the motor nerves, and it's possible that there's also degradation at the sensory receptors. So yes, definitely. Okay, about half, so about 50% of children with ADHD also have motor coordination problems. True or false?
False.
Okay.
Because I don't remember reading anything about ADHD in the book that had anything to do with motor coordination problems. That's just me though.
I think we talked about it in class a little bit. They actually do have about half of children who are diagnosed with ADHD also have motor coordination problems. That may be because they're not paying attention to the skill, or we don't really know yet what the link is because it isn't all children, right? So some of them do. As I said, we don't know whether it's something neural or something cognitive that's going on. Difficult to say, but it does mean that we want to make sure that we give these kids opportunities to move, right? And that can be difficult because they can be very disruptive in a class. So what often happens is they get sat out, right? Because it's easier to manage them sitting down than manage them running around the gym getting in everybody's way. Motor development and blank development may be fundamentally intertwined.
Is cognitive?
Yes. Yes. All right, the more we understand how the brain is developing and working, the more we feel that this link is there. And, you know, we see it with the depth perception, right? So, yeah, definitely. Good. Okay. The numbers, oh yeah, chapter 15 we did 14, 15 and 16, right? Is that right? Yes, okay. All right, 15. So which of the following is that should be an is an example of a social or cultural environmental constraint? Age, race, religion, B and C, A, B, C.
B and C.
Oh, yeah, good, Jean, yeah. Race and religion, right? Age is I'm not even sure if you could call age an individual constraint. It's just a fact of life, right? But yeah, good. Race and religion could both be social and cultural constraints. Okay. Parents will be the most influential socializing agent for teenagers. So this is looking at who's the significant other for teenagers? Who are they going to pay the most attention, who are they going to listen to if they give them an opinion?
Is this their peers or their friends?
Yeah, that's right, their peer group, right? So that would make this a false statement for teenagers, right? If it was for younger children or for older adults, like mid-20s onwards, then parents become more influential, right? But at the teenage terrors, then most of the research would say that typically, of course there's always examples where we could point out someone who's a teenager who's like really, really close with their parents. But typically, teenage years are that time when we're starting to test our boundaries and get a little bit of independence. And our parents are just a nuisance, right? Okay. So, if your parents are sedentary, it's likely that you will react against this and become active.
That's false.
That is false, right? If your parents are sedentary, it's likely you will be sedentary because they won't be modeling movement at home, right? They won't be necessarily encouraging it. It doesn't say obese, right? It just says sedentary. So this could be people who love to read, right? Or like to play the piano, but they don't go outside and walk or run or go to the gym or do the garden, right? Yeah. Negative media coverage of a sporting event may act as a constraint because it could blank participation. Negative is the key here, right? Negative media coverage of a sporting event may act as a constraint because it could
Decrease participation?
Yeah, decrease would work. You could also use discourage or lower, anything that indicates it's when we're in the exam, right? What I'm looking for is that you understand the concept, okay? So if you can't find the word, and I know when I took exams, fill in the blanks are difficult because your mind's just like, nothing will come, right? So it's not the exact word so much as the concept. So any word that means it would possibly impact participation negatively, right, would be fine. And that goes for any of the questions. If you have a question and you're like, I know this, but I can't think of it. You can draw a little diagram, or, well, you can't draw a diagram because we're online. Write a few words to describe what you think the answer is if you can't come up with a term. All right? Okay. So, chapter 16, we were looking at those psychosocial interactions. All right? So, and remember we were talking about the difference between internal attributions and external attributions, right? If it's someone with high self-esteem, they're likely to use attributions that are more internal. If it's someone with low self-esteem, they're likely to give reasons. Remember, attributions is the reasons, causal attributions. What are the reasons for their performance, good or bad? Right? So if I have low self-esteem, I'm more likely to give external attributions. All right? So thinking about internal, believing they personally control the factors influencing outcome. Believing that the factors influencing outcome are consistent from situation to situation. Believing that individuals influence outcomes. This question is not right. Outcomes through their own behavior, believing that peers influence outcomes.
C.
I would say A on this one because an internal attribution is somebody who thinks that they can control their successes or their failures.
Yeah. I'm thinking A and C. So let me just have a look. I'm wondering if that's a typo. on one of those questions because we want 16. 15. Attributions, internal. Believing they influence outcomes through their own behavior. C. Stable. Oh. Okay, that may be an actual tricky question. I don't like that question. Okay. Okay, so the internal attribution is C. A, believing they personally control the factors is controllable, which is, so there's 3 versions of the positive attributions, and then believing factors influencing outcomes are consistent from situation to situation is stable. Yeah, I don't like that question. That won't be on the exam. I think that's a little tricky, but well done, Jean, for getting it right. Well done, well done. Okay, so which type of individual constraint is motivation?
An individual functional constraint.
Functional, well done, right. Remember we have under our individual corner of our triangle, we can split individual into structural or functional. Motivation is certainly a functional constraint. Okay, self-esteem is based on your objective value evaluation of your worthiness.
Yes. That's true.
So I think objective is the key here. I think your self-esteem is based on your subjective evaluation of your worthiness. Right? Because we said that our self-esteem, that we, especially children, will make statements of self-esteem that are incorrect. Right? Because I'm comparing myself to someone else and putting myself down when actually I'm very capable. So I think objective is the key in that question. So I think that's a false. You've got to be careful how you read the questions. Okay? That's why I don't like doing this stuff online, because normally you would be here in the classroom and you could come and ask me if that was the key word, right? We can't do that this way. A coach who has a student with low self-esteem can provide blank to help self-esteem improve. So, that question is specifically linked to figure 16.3, where we were talking about what adults can do to help children with low self-esteem for movement, that we can actually change their self-esteem. We can influence that by providing certain things for them. So we're looking at that kind of yellowy orange box on the right there. So they can emphasize improvement through effort, emphasize improvement through continued practice, and here's a provide. We can provide progressive learning experiences. We can provide accurate feedback. We can encourage goal setting. Okay? If I'm grading that, I would take any of those answers because that indicates to me that you're linking the concept to the theory. Does that make sense? And then also go back, remember that I did Harter's hierarchy on a whiteboard during class. Go back and look at that. It's a slightly different model to the one that's in the book for the development of self-esteem and perceived competence. Okay. And then also use the, how do I do this? Hold on. I think I have to stop that. Hi, Shantaria. Well done, that girl. And I want to share this one. So here's the major concepts. I've grayed out chapter 13 because we dropped that chapter. All right, so there's some points here that can help you study as well. All right. Questions? Anything you want me to go over from these 3 chapters that I could review? You're not quite sure if you understand them.
I think you pretty well covered it.
Thank you. Remember that the lectures are available in Collaborate, right? So if you want to go back and re-watch something, right, then you've got up in that left-hand corner where that little kind of thumbprint is with the menu sign. If you go into that when you first go to the Collaborate room, you can either go to the classroom or the recordings. So you can go back and watch anything, all right? Also, I have office hours on Wednesday, so that's tomorrow from 3:15 to 5:15. And I have office hours on Thursday from 1 to 3. All right? So you can jump in. The exam is on Thursday, but the exam will be open all day. So if you get to Thursday and you still have some questions that you would like answered before you tackle the exam, you can come into office hours and check in with me before you take it. All right, that's just not, I really don't like this, you not being here to take exams, because I like you to be able to ask questions about things, you know, particularly the questions on I'm not testing your language comprehension, right? I'm testing motor development comprehension. So if you don't understand the question, that's not, that's not what I'm examining. So yes, certainly do come see me if you need to. You could always put a question into the discussion Q&A. That's another opportunity to ask me a question, and then everybody else will see the answer as well. So that's a good plan. What else?
Dr. Wall, I got a quick question.
Sure.
I know I've been asking you all that this week, but are you free today so that we can talk about my courses?
Today is not good, Jean. If you email me, I can fit you in tomorrow.
All right, that'll work.
Okay, drop me an email in either Outlook or Blackboard, doesn't matter for advising appointments, and I can set you up an appointment for tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right? Okay. Anything else I can help you with?
Not today.
Not today? Okie dokie. Well, hopefully this won't be too overwhelming since it's only 3 chapters, okay? And just think through, right? Again, always try not to memorize things, all right? Try to understand them, because if you memorize them and the question is worded in a different way, you can't answer the question, right? But if you understand the idea, like think about the videos that we saw, what do they tell you about development of perceptual development and social development, right? Think about those. And think about trying to understand the big picture so that you can put the right piece of the jigsaw into the question. Okay. Alrighty. Well, if you don't have any more questions for me now, that's all I've got for you. Alright. I will open up the answer document so that you've got those answers to go back to and look at. And yeah, I think that's it. Okay, have a lovely day. It's a little bit chilly.
Thank you, you too.
All right, bye.